Hi guys, I'm Hollie Jeakins, a photographer based out of Ontario, Canada. Today we're going to talk all about food flat lays. Now, I'm sure if you scroll through Instagram or you look on Pinterest or you open up a magazine, you're going to see tons of food images styled beautifully and food flat lays. Flat lays are wildly popular right now. Whether it's food or people even will do products, or there's so many different ways that you can do flat lays. But today I wanted to focus on food flat lays with you. So my go-to lens for food flat lays is the Lensbaby Velvet 56. And today I have that on my camera here for you to take a look at. So for my food images, I don't usually go below 5.6. You want your flat lays to be in focus. Usually the entire frame needs to be in focus, so you'd go probably around f11, f8 for making sure all of your items are in focus. Now, like I said, that's a traditional flat lay, and sometimes I like to break the rules a bit, so I'll go a bit lower. But I'll talk about that later as we move along in this little tutorial. So another thing I like to add into my food flat lays, this here is the Omni filter system. And it's really neat. There's so many different creative things you can add to your images. These here are some of my favorite wands. This one adds a stretch look. This one can add like a blurry haze, which is beautiful to the edges of the frame. And this one here will also add like a slight rainbow look, and again also that hazy look. So when I use these, I'll usually move them around the edges of my frame. Just to add a little something different to my food flat lays and my food images. Now, the Velvet 56, you can actually attach this system right onto it. So this here is a little disc that you attach right onto the end of the lens here. Once you have that attached, you have these little magnets here that you can move around wherever you want. And you can attach these like that. And then you can simply adjust. And little tiny adjustments make big differences. So you just get it on there and then play around with it. When the light comes and hits, it's going to create different types of like a flare or a stretch depending on what wand you have. But a little tiny difference, simply just like this, will change the image and the mood of your image greatly. So it's super fun and super creative way to add a little something different to your images. So I'll often use the Omni filter system in my food images. So I'm just gonna show you how to attach it to your lens here. So it's simply just aligning it and then twisting until it no longer twists. And there you go, that's what it looks like. Then you can simply take your wands, attach them on, like that. And then when you're shooting, you just look through and you just adjust slightly until you see what you like, and then you snap. And I'll show you a bit more of that when I actually start taking some shots. Hi guys, so for today's food flat lay, I've got it set up here if you want to take a look. So for the backdrop, I'm using some wooden planks here. I love the color of the wooden planks combined with the texture that it incorporates into the image. Now, another thing that I talked about in my blog is composition and layers. So let's take a look at how I've set this image up here. So I'm using, for layers, I'm using some of these cloth here. which also adds in textures. You can see the texture I've brought in here, as well as the texture here. Then on top of that, I'm using this old antique cooling rack. And then I'm adding in this wood here, this metal plate. I've also got some other antique cooking things down here just to add in, again, some more layers and some more visual interest, some shapes. And then I've got some little like dried flowers here, a wooden knife, and some yarn. So when I'm planning an image, I'm thinking about how can I incorporate textures into the image? How can I get more layers into my image? And also one that's very big is color. And if you're new with setting up food images or working with color, I recommend checking out the color wheel. It's a fantastic source of inspiration. You can see how complementary colors work together. Another suggestion is look on Pinterest or Instagram and search for food images and see how they're pairing colors together. Color has a huge impact on your final image. And then also, when you go into post and you start editing, you can change and manipulate the colors to enhance the image and create a mood to your image. I love to add a nostalgic feeling to my images, so I'll often, when I'm editing, I'll kind of play with my colors until I see, okay, this is the nostalgic look I'm going for, and that's kind of how my process when I'm creating my images and my editing. So when I'm going to shoot, I'm looking for a spot with good light, if you're using natural light, which is what I'm doing here. So I have this large bay window that I'll often shoot beside, because I can either simply take my set here and shift it over a bit if I'm getting too much light, or I can adjust the curtains here to either create pockets of light or to filter the light if I'm shooting during midday when the sun is, you know, shining in and it's just too bright for the mood and the style that I want. So I recommend taking a look at your home, trying to find a spot, you know, on the floor, on a table near a window, where you have some curtains that you can draw to manipulate the light to the image, so that you're not getting so much light coming in, and you can create moody images that way. Another thing too that you can use is white foam board or black foam board, which you can pick up at a hardware store or even like a dollar store sells it, and you can reflect light and you can create deeper shadows using those as well, or you can also use a reflector if you need to bounce light back onto your image. So if you're not sure, take a look, like go to take your image and take a test shot and see. And I'll often say, oh, you know, I'm not really liking the highlights that much, and I'll draw the curtains a bit more, or I'll just slightly move this down until I get the look that I like. And you'll start to train your eye how exactly you like your images based on the light coming in from the window. Another thing that I'll do sometimes is I'll add a plastic bag to my lens, which can create beautiful haze around the frame. It's a little bit trickier to use because you have to still focus your manual lens, and then you move the bag around, and depending on where you put the bag, you're going to get like a hazy blur added into your image, which with my style I really, really love. So that's another thing I recommend if you want to just try adding something a little bit different to your images. Another thing that I talked about in my blog was using a tripod versus just shooting straight over top like you've seen me do in this video. Now, having a tripod is super handy with the articulated arm, so it goes straight out. You can put your camera right on it, shoot down, get it all set up, and then when your camera's on, you've done your settings, you can make micro adjustments to your scene and not have to worry about the camera anymore, which is really helpful. Now, today I decided not to set it up and just to show you how I would do it without the tripod, just because probably there's not that many of you that have that type of tripod. So I just wanted to show you that it can totally be done just, you know, standing above it. The only thing you have to be aware of is making sure that you're shooting flat down, because it's like a bird's eye view, straight down at a 90-degree angle when you're shooting food flat lays. So just when you're standing over top, just be aware of how you're standing, because you don't want to get that angle in there and not notice it when you're shooting and then get to your computer and realize they're not exactly the way that you wanted them to be. So that's just a little thing to keep an eye out for when you're not using a tripod. So the last thing I want to talk to you today about is food styling, which is also a very important part of taking food images and food flat lays. Now, it takes time to work up your food styling kit, but there are some things that really I use time and time again, and dishcloths, linen ones or textured ones are great, and it's great to have them in a variety of colors. It adds a splash of color, it adds you texture, so they're great to have like a whole different. This is just a little sampling of my food props, but I just wanted to kind of give you some examples here. Here's a textured cloth one here. So another thing is great that I like is old antique utensils with some patina or some texture. You can pick these up like at a vintage store or like Facebook Marketplace. And I have a ton of different looks depending on the mood and the style of the image that I want to go for. Here's one with like, it's nice, adding a little bit of color in here. Another thing too is like twine or like ripped cloth. So right here, see, I added the twine around. I'll often just add it around my utensils here just to add something a little different. Old baking sheets like this are really nice. This one's nice, it adds shapes, it adds texture. It looks old here, so you know, the older, the better. Like dirty, old looking baking sheets are great. They're even great as a backdrop instead of like the wood. Using something like that would be perfect, or a chalkboard. You can get wood here. In terms of plates, I like clay plates, or you can get old antique plates, milk glass. There's so many different ways you can go with it, and it's really dependent on the style that you want to create. I like the more vintagey look, so you'll find my props are more headed in that direction, but you can go anywhere with your styling. You can add in, you know, dried flowers or fresh flowers. Sometimes what I'll do too is add like a spoon with like a dollop of honey dripping somewhere, which adds another little visual interest, and just maybe some cinnamon sprinkled throughout the image, or if it was chocolate chip cookies, I'd sprinkle chocolate chips around. Just, you know, you're always, again, like I was talking, you want to add layers, and you can do that with your props as well. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial that goes along with my food blog. If you have any questions at all, whether it be food styling or my process when shooting flat lays, anything that you read in my blog, or specific questions on any Lensbaby, the Lensbaby 56, which I use mostly for my food images, or anything with the Omni system, I'm here to help. Just send me a message. You can send it to my Instagram, which is @birdandbumblebee. You can leave a comment on this post. I'd love to help you, or if you're just looking for a new Lensbaby, I'd love to help you. Thanks so much.